Okay, so many of you know I typically focus on landscape photography on this channel, but after spending 6 months with the DJI Pocket 3, I've realized just how special this camera is. And I absolutely hate it because
Hey, Alex, we gotta go.
What?
We gotta go.
Where are we going?
Patagonia.
Oh.
She didn't honk at you once?
No, she didn't honk. But
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're just taking our time here. Do. Quite the security lines here. There's nobody here. Pretty sure that bag's bigger than you are. Here we go. Have a good one.
Great one, same to you.
What are you getting?
Chips and guac.
What was your opinion on Buffalo Wild Wings?
It's very loud.
Loud?
Yeah.
America. Is this thing on? No. That has nothing to do with the food.
The food was fine, but there's just so many chains here in America.
How did you know the Buffalo Wild Wings is a chain? What if that's the only one?
Is that the only one?
No, that's not what I asked.
Answer my question. Is that the only one?
Hello. Can I get a caramel? Thank you. All right, so now that I have a little bit of time to breathe, I can actually tell you why I'm making this video, even though I don't typically review cameras like this. It's because I've actually had 6 months of using this camera, and this is not to take away anything from review channels. The benefit of those channels is they have a lot of knowledge of a lot of cameras. They know Sonys and Nikons and Fujis and all different models. The problem is they don't get to spend a lot of time with every camera. They review a camera and they move on to the next one. I actually use this camera as my daily video camera for making videos on this channel. And the reality is I've never really quite felt like I had a camera that was convenient to use, but also matched the image quality for the stories that I want to tell. Almost 2 years now, about 2 years ago, I daily vlogged my trip through Alaska. But in doing that, I had to stop filming on my mirrorless cameras, my R5 and my R7, or at the time a Fuji X-C4, because I just couldn't. I had to focus on taking photos and telling stories, so I just switched to filming on my phone. The image quality was good enough. It was good, but it still just felt like a phone, and I could tell. And that's really where the Pocket changes the game, because it doesn't feel like a phone image. It actually feels a lot like a mirrorless camera image. Honestly, I can compare it a little bit to like a Mavic 2 Pro sensor. I actually think they might be similar sensors. Regardless, image quality is important, but I don't want to focus too much on it because I think what's more important is that it helps enhance telling stories. It gets out of our way, and that's what makes the Osmo Pocket 3 so special, is that we can tell stories without hindering the image quality for channels like mine, where video quality and image quality of the places I am is actually really important, because a lot of what I'm doing involves taking images of really beautiful scenes. And if my video quality of those really beautiful scenes doesn't match, it doesn't really project the image or the visuals that I want to have on my channel. So image quality, that's what we're going to start with. As Sophia and I make our way to Patagonia, and throughout this video, you'll see just how good the image quality is of the Pocket 3 in all types of scenarios. For any shot not taken with the Pocket 3, you'll see the camera name in the bottom right corner, like right now during this 10-hour flight to Santiago when I was half asleep and just used my phone. One thing I love about the Pocket 3 is its manual exposure mode. I can set my shutter speed to be 1/50th of a second, which makes the footage look a lot less digital or phone-like, yet I can set the ISO to be variable so that it handles most exposures completely automatically, so I don't have to change anything. This does require using an ND filter during brighter scenes, typically anything outside during the day. Notice in this shot it's very overexposed because I hadn't put on the ND yet and the window light was just too intense. I purchased a set of ND filters from Newer that I'll have linked down below, and I found that I can get away with just the 6-stop ND that conveniently stores right into the magnetic case when I'm not using it, magnetizes to the front of the lens when I am using it, and it doesn't hinder the Pocket from closing when putting it into the protective case as well. If you're wondering why all of this is so important, I believe after shooting this time-lapse in the Santiago airport, I accidentally set the camera to film the next portion of the video with an automatic shutter speed. So the keen eye among you are going to notice how stiff the footage looks until we get to Patagonia.
Another way the Pocket 3 separates itself from a phone is its depth of field is much better than you'd expect from such a small sensor. Sometimes it's too strong even, but overall this is another small addition to why the footage has a more professional look.
Okay, it has been 37 hours since we woke up. We have arrived, we've gotten groceries, we had to get bedding because our little camper van here doesn't have anything to keep us warm, including sheets. So we had to go get those. How are you feeling there, Sophia?
There's flamingos.
There's flamingos?
They're a little bit faded with the colors of the sunset, but they're very pink.
Okay, we're gonna get food and get a lot of sleep somewhere, hopefully. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. It has been quite the adventure since we got here. Currently, I'm driving a manual van. It's been a long time since I've driven manual. In a country I don't know. I'm getting honked at a lot. Can't figure out why. It rained a lot last night. It's very windy here. Her suitcase got peed on by those dogs that we saw when we went to pick up the van. We accidentally bought bubbly water instead of fresh water. I say we, but realistically, but we're having a great time. It's nice and sunny out. How are you feeling?
I feel okay.
Turn the mic towards you when you talk.
I feel okay.
We're on the way to the park now, so stay tuned for that. Definitely going to talk a bit more about why this camera is so special. I think the last thing I talked about was image quality. We'll get into more of the details about that, but for the most part, I'm going to get to the park and see you there.
It was at this moment that I realized my shutter speed was on automatic from the previous day, like I mentioned before. Notice if I pause the video throughout this clip how crisp every frame looks. Compared to the clip right after realizing my mistake, there's a lot of natural motion blur in the road. This is what we want to make our footage look more cinematic.
I was told that if I wanted life to believe, and the answer's not the questions I...
Torres is right there. I don't know if you can see it in the actual... Let me just... Oh yeah, you could see him right there. Right there. And we got welcomed by this rainbow behind us. It was raining the whole way here, dirt roads. It was definitely a bit of an adventure, and it just cleared. Oh my God.
But like a child falling back to no arms underneath, I dropped into the unrelenting world of in-between. Behind the questions, there's a murmur echoing, a wordless sentence in between the lines.
All right, so the conditions we got this morning were just absolutely spectacular. Probably the best I could have ever hoped for on the very first morning. Kept it really simple, just came to one of the iconic shots here in Patagonia. But I didn't have a lot of time to set up or tell a good story, because I raced up there to get my camera set up. I had to change lenses, and most of all, the wind was just absolutely relentless. All right, so while it looked like, to the point where I couldn't even have talked to you very well up there anyways, sure, maybe I could have covered this microphone up and actually gotten audio that you could hear, but I was so under pressure in terms of the wind that I was literally having to hold my camera down on the tripod to take steady shots. It was that windy. And the light was pretty fleeting. I think I got the shot that I wanted. I got just your standard wide angle shot of the two lakes here with the peaks in the background with some absolutely gorgeous red light, but then the light was gone and there was never really a chance to get anything else. But I at least got the shot. That is one of the amazing things about the Pocket 3 was even when I got out of the car to walk up here, I had a second to film myself walking up here. I had a second to film a little bit of what was going on up there without having to set up another tripod, without having to set up something else. I could just take the Pocket 3 out, film a couple quick shots while I was doing things, and be able to tell or put together some amount of story. But the biggest thing is the image quality. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but first I want to show you this image that I just got, and here it is.
After warming warming up in the van for about 45 minutes, I noticed the light outside remained quite dynamic, so I decided to go back out into the wind and watch more of the morning unfold. I'm extremely glad I did because I ended up capturing one of my favorite images from the entire trip. All the photographers you see here were not there for sunrise, yet all photographers that were there for sunrise had also already left. So if you ever visit Patagonia, remember that the light can be photogenic any time of day with clouds like these, so stay attentive. Speaking of beautiful light, now's a great time to talk about the dynamic range and color profiles on the Pocket 3. All of the footage you've seen so far was captured using DLOG-M, which is a log format that essentially just gives me more flexibility to edit the footage how I want to look later. The beauty of the Pocket 3's log profile, though, is that it looks pretty dang good even without an edit, just leaving it flat like this. Thomas Heaton does this, and it actually matches quite well with the picture profile like Fuji's Eterna color profile on their X-T4 or X-T5 or any of their other cameras. If you don't like such a flat look, their Rec 709 LUT is good enough to just throw under your footage without much tinkering at all if you just need to save some time. Even the built-in standard profile, with sharpness turned down of course, is completely usable. The beauty is that you have options, and most of the options work very conveniently no matter what you decide is best for your work. Dynamic range is typically pretty limited on such a small camera like this, but man does this little thing impress me. Notice in this scene how I can capture the dark, dimly lit area of the van and then pan to the bright midday light without skipping a beat. You can see the dynamic range put to the test throughout this video, and my thoughts overall is that it's quite close to both my Canon R7 and R5.
What did you make?
Sandwiches and strawberries.
No tomatoes, right?
No tomatoes. No, I lost the tomatoes. Somewhere in the van.
Yeah, that's right.
Lunch with the view. My goodness.
Low light is where large sensor cameras still shine. Pun intended, of course. But for storytelling, the Pocket 3 is still capable. Here's a couple clips from a future video where I'm in low light mode, 3 hours before sunrise, where it's dark enough to see the Milky Way, lit with just a headlamp. Not perfect, but totally usable. Next morning's sunrise had enough ambient light to shoot in normal mode using DLOG-M. Unlike a phone that doesn't have a gimbal, the Pocket 3 can get away with much more out of its sensor because it doesn't have to stabilize and crop in nearly as much as something like an iPhone does in these moving low light shots. And the image looks pretty darn good.
Okay, good morning everyone. Last night didn't get a sunset at all, just completely socked in rain. And this morning was looking about the same. So I sat here waiting for almost an hour. We're definitely getting little touches of color in the sky back here. We're gonna stand up here probably in the wind. Might not take any images. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna be ready for what does happen. There's a little break in the clouds over there. So I think we might get something. Cross your fingers.
Every victory and defeat in all smothered dreams. And the baby bird that's eaten by the snake in it.
All right, so while it looked like we were gonna get some favorable conditions here in the morning, the color kind of just faded away and never really came out on the peaks. It came out a little bit on this peak here, but these peaks over here never really showed themselves. So it didn't necessarily work out. But if anything, from yesterday, some of the best light I got was actually about an hour after sunrise. It's not that red golden light, but it's some beautiful light. So I'm gonna sit around and wait around in this wind and hope that the light gets a little bit better and see what we can come up with. Okay, I've come out of the wind a little bit. The conditions didn't really get better. I'm gonna go back to the van and warm up a little bit and give it about 30 minutes outside of the wind and see if anything opens up. But right now there's still just rain clouds, storm clouds on the peaks, so I'm not really getting any light or dynamics or anything like that like I did yesterday. So I'm gonna go warm up a little bit and see where the morning takes us. It could take us right back out here, or it could take us somewhere else. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, thanks for being here.
And the baby bird that's eaten by the snake in its sleep.
The conditions that morning never really improved, thus it was time for Sophia and I to explore more of the park, to scout for future sunrise spots, and just enjoy the sights. The wind was absolutely relentless that day, which is a great way to transition to another massive reason the Pocket 3 is so special: audio. While most of this portion is about the DJI Mic 2 that comes with the Creator Combo, which you should absolutely have by the way, let me just start off by saying that the flexibility of the internal mics on the Pocket 3 shouldn't be dismissed. There's times like this one, where I didn't have the chance to turn the Mic 2 on because I just wanted to capture the moment, and the internal mics handled it perfectly fine. As long as you're not in gale force winds, these mics can get you by in a pinch.
Do we trust it? Is it going to collapse on it?
I don't think so.
As you've noticed, convenience is repeated over and over again in this video, and audio is no exception. The wireless Mic 2 pairs perfect with the Pocket 3. Personally, I just consider them one unit, and I feel like I couldn't own the Pocket 3 without the mic. Being able to just clip it onto a jacket or magnetize it real quick to a t-shirt, turn it on, and I'm ready to rock and roll means I get to focus more on the story and less on the equipment. This is made even better by the fact that it records 32-bit float, which was a huge selling point for my old lavalier that I use simply because it means there's far less of a chance of me clipping or messing up my audio levels, which again means I get to focus more on the story. This combined with the fact that it records internally to the mic just in case there's a signal issue, while also enabling the ability to use the mic without the Pocket 3, which I do pretty often anytime I want to record audio and sync it with one of my other cameras. Sometimes I even use it to get better audio with my phone. Plus, it's got great battery life, and the windscreen's really effective. It's genuinely hard to find a negative about the audio on the Pocket 3 setup. It just works and even has redundancy in the event that it doesn't work.
And the baby bird that's eaten by the snake in its sleep. Is there a rhythm to the mystery deep? A melody that's crying while she sings.
Lastly, the menu systems are simple and easy to understand. Once you have everything set up, you can create custom profiles for whatever footage you typically record at, and after that, it's very rare I need to change a setting at all outside of switching between things like low light, time-lapse, or my standard D-Log recording mode. The screen works well, and unlike the old Pocket 2, you can actually see what's happening on it. The extra battery that attaches to the small tripod adds even more convenience, and you can even use this thing as a webcam. So what can't it do? The Pocket isn't perfect, but honestly, I tried to list out my genuine issues with it, and there's quite literally no deal breakers. Sometimes the autofocus isn't perfectly reliable, like you can see here in the clips recording for my video on backing up your photos, but it's pretty rare. The Pocket 3 does have a feature where it will track you, whether it's stationary or you're walking around, and while it does work and function like it's supposed to, personally, I think the footage ends up being more distracting than it does enhancing the moment. I've yet to see a clip of tracking in any scenario that improves the clip rather than detracting from it, and after that, I really haven't had any issues. I am mildly concerned about how robust or mechanically long this gimbal will work, considering the amount of times I turn this thing on and off and put it into the case is quite a lot, but after 6 months, no signs of issues yet.
All right, so I've come back to the spot I scouted earlier today where it was super windy and we were trying to hold ourselves up with the wind up there on the hill. And I've come down here to the water where I took an image before, and I've set up my tripod, but you'll notice there's no camera there. That is because there's a lot of splashing going on, so I've set my camera down on my bag back here. And I'm kind of waiting and hoping some of this color that you can kind of see in the sky right here catches behind our main peaks back here. Now, typically, this is not known for a sunset area because the sunrise hits all of these peaks really nice, as you've seen in the other photos, but it sets back there behind the peaks. However, what I'm hoping is you can notice these really nice lenticular clouds back here could catch some color right at sunset. There's a little bit happening in the sky, and if that happens, it's going to look really good with a mixture of this wave that I have here, and I also have this log set up in my foreground that looks really nice in the image. And if it comes together, it's going to work. Even the images I took as a test before I took it off so it doesn't get splashed too much look really great. So I'll show you one of those regardless. I'm just going to conclude the episode by mentioning again how special this camera is, because it just does everything so well, so conveniently. The image quality, while not as impressive as a $4,000, $5,000 camera, is really good for what it does. The gimbal does better things than I can without a gimbal on my cameras. The audio quality, the convenience of just having it laved up wirelessly recording, 32-bit float, so even right now it's very loud because I'm speaking very loud because of the wind, and I'm trying to block some of it, but it should still work. That is so convenient. It means I get to just tell stories. I get to set up these shots like this, or take you along to Patagonia with me, or just show you some of the stuff we had to go through, taking images of the horses, the wind, waking up for sunrise, all of that stuff. I get to tell better stories easier and focus on my art of photography without it being a problem. That's really the thing, is it just gets out of the way and it carries so much weight for how little weight it actually is. It's super convenient. I hate it because it almost makes me want to replace my secondary camera. Again, I still use those. They still have their purpose for like A-roll, but I feel myself picking it out of the bag less and less. And that's a big deal. And it just does everything so well. I cannot recommend it enough, and there's really very little downsides to it. And I think it is the de facto camera for vlogging or doing this kind of material now, and I highly recommend it. Anyways, here's the last image. I hope you enjoyed. There's got to be a rainbow out there somewhere. We just got to go find them. YouTube thinks you're going to like this video, so check that one out too. Later.